every day and night.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard. That's L-E-N-A-R-D. It looks French. It's not. It's Leonard without an O. Thank you for tuning in. As Graham Norton used to say on his show, let's get on with the show! Hello, today is Saturday, May the 23rd. I am recording this intro segment for Wednesday, May the 27th, when the show will air. This is going to be a bit odd. I will be having on Ralph Rebant for Governor of Michigan via Ed Bondarenka and the Your American Heritage Show, which airs on Wham Radio. It aired 1 p.m. today, Saturday, May the 23rd, re-airing today, when this airs, Wednesday, May the 27th, it's airing, 2026, Season 3, May Special 12, it will be. So without further ado, let's get to Ed Bondarenka's Your American Heritage Show featuring Ralph Rebant.
All righty. Well, welcome to Your American Heritage. And I actually saved the wrong clip to open the show with. That kind of confused me. A day of technical errors here at Wham Radio. Live radio, that's how it works. Once again, my name is Ed Bondarenka, and I am
a white Christian cisgender male.
I'm proud of it. Producing the show is Derek Stone. Derek's a Swiss Army knife of radio, and he's the host of
Stone Cold Sports Truth.
Sundays right at noon 30, right after my friend Sean Todd hosts The Intersection at noon. So you want to listen to those shows, listen to all the Wham shows. Your American Heritage is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now Google Music, and you can and should subscribe. So find a link to the podcast by going to whamradio.com, W-A-A-M, we are American made, whamradio.com, and click on the podcast tab at the top. So once again, there's a war going on for control of America, and you might wonder, how do we engage in the fight? Well, we get organized, preferably in a good church. We go to court. We educate our neighbors. We support those who take the battle to the enemy. We support those who are running for office that support godly values, and then we make sure they do. And we encourage each other. You know, I think the Bible speaks about encouraging the brethren. Well, that's one way of doing it. And we arm ourselves intellectually. We learn the facts for ourselves so we can make wise decisions and explain them to others. No, we do that by listening to this show, hopefully. We arm ourselves physically. Get a gun. Learn to use it. Be prepared to defend yourself, your family, and your nation. And then spiritually, once again, read your Bible, find a good church, join with others in prayer for our nation. Like this. Father, please lead us and guide us as we seek to protect this nation. Please help us protect our heritage and the rights that you have given us from evil conspirators, thieves, traitors, and tyrants. Please bring these enemies of good and sound morals to a place of repentance. And if they will not repent, please remove them utterly from our presence. Amen.
Amen.
Well, folks, thank you. Folks, we are down to 5 candidates for the Republican nominee for governor. Mike Cox, John James, Perry Johnson, Eric Nesbitt, and Ralph Rebant. Okay? And frankly, I have no use for John James. I'll be frank about that. We interviewed him a few years ago on Derek, what's the show I used to do before with Gary Wellens?
The Daily Drift.
The Daily Drift, thank you. Wow, speaking of brain farts. And and he just was, he wasn't there. And he had ringers call in to ask questions. We knew it. So I'm not a fan. But joining us today is candidate for governor of Michigan, Ralph Rebant. We've had a number of gubernatorial candidates on, and that word gubernatorial just rolls off my tongue anymore. And the ones that we've had have not been elected, so I must apologize to our guest right now. It won't be my fault, but I think we're going to have the next governor of the state of Michigan here. I wanted Ralph to come on because I'm curious as to his positions and thought you might want to hear more about him. Hi, Ralph. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ed. I'm looking forward to this whole discussion. I've been looking forward to it for a couple weeks now.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Me too. I've been prepping as best I can. So why don't you tell us about your background to start out with?
Well, I was born in Wyandotte, Michigan, grew up in Woodhaven, downriver, went to Bates Elementary School, then off to Intercity Christian School in Allen Park. I met my wife there in 7th grade. I had a crush on her in 7th grade and then ended up proposing to her graduation day from high school. So we were 18. We got married 6 months later. I went off to college for the first semester and then came back and got married in December, took her back to Pennsylvania with us. We lived in Pennsylvania about 10 years. Adam, our first son, came around about 2 years later, Amy about 15 months later, and then after we moved back to Michigan to start Oakland Hills Community Church, we had 2 more sons in 86 and 88. So if you add all that up, Ed, we've got 4 grown kids, wonderful spouses, and 21 grandkids.
May I ask quickly, where was Intercity Christian School located?
4700 Allen Road, Allen Park, Michigan, between
Thought so.
Southfield and Outer Drive.
I understand that. It was next to a creek, and I used to walk by that in the mornings on my way to St. Mary Magdalene. So
There you
there's
go.
that. Yep.
Well,
I was born
did
in
you-
Wyandotte, like I said. I was born in Wyandotte, raised in Allen Park, and until we moved to Carlton and Flat Rock. So, yeah, we have that in common. So, go ahead.
So in terms of things, I've done everything that you can imagine one would do in a work career. I've been everything from a janitor to a plant manager. I've sold car wax, built homes, restored one Mustang. That was a big project. But restored the Honda 70s, those little Honda 70s and 50s from the 1970s. We've got some of those. And it's just fun to get out and do those kind of things. But I think the biggest joy I have is knowing that my kids love Jesus. They're raising their kids to be godly kids, love our country, love Michigan. It's just, that's my biggest, I really can't even claim it. My wife's amazing. She helped raise those kids. We give the Lord the credit for all the good that comes out of it.
Well, that's great. Well, once again, I've done janitor work, and I haven't sold car wax, but I've rebuilt Mustangs, and I've ridden Trail 70s, and actually they're selling new Trail 70s these days. My brothers had them when we were kids, and now they're selling a brand new retro mod Trail 70 Honda. I just can't imagine why, but they're popular. So
they are. With our generation, some of those that are really in mint condition, they sell for $5,000 to $10,000.
It's amazing. Yeah,
It
I
is.
preferred my Honda 750 Super Sport rather, but that's off the subject. We're really off the subject here, but we're getting to know you, and that's good. Along the campaign front, Benson is trying to scuttle some popular Republicans again. Now, they pulled this trick, I believe it was the last election. They got James Craig off the ballot and a number of others, Sandy Penciller, and I can't remember the others they bumped
Donna
off the ballot.
Brandenburg, Michael Markey.
You weren't bounced off the ballot that time, right?
No, I was not. And that's what's interesting, because we turned in about the same amount of signatures that we turned in 2022, and we weren't bounced off. We're still not off, but technically, because we have an opportunity to appeal on the 28th. But if you look at the stuff, and this is what just drives me crazy, we turned in 18,217 signatures. They did a sample of 750 signatures. And of that sample, they said that there are 218 that are bad. We just got the file yesterday. I was going through it this morning. And the ones that they say are bad are people that I know that live in the, one guy donated to my campaign. He's been living in his house for 10, 15 years. He hasn't moved. He's registered to vote, and they say he's not registered to vote. We have to go through all their signatures to be prepared on Thursday to present our case that there's no way on the planet a staffer who's looking at these things, only 750 signatures, making an extrapolation that we don't have enough to get on because of what they've looked at. Because we're not 218 short, number one, on their number. And we went through them all, Ed. We went through all of our signatures, made sure that people didn't put their birthday down. If they did, we crossed them out instead of the date of signing. We made sure they were in the same county, that they were signing in, that they lived there. And those are some of the things that they were complaining about. And we know because we took out about 1,500 to 2,000. just because we didn't want this problem. I'm going to be looking tonight later at the rest of those signatures. We will be on the ballot. We have more than 15,000 good signatures.
I trust you. This is just another. I mean, Benson's corrupt. That's just all there is
Yes.
to it. Benson's a corrupt Democrat from way back, and yeah, I guess she's trying to thin the field that she'll run against. Right? That's
It's
a conflict
interesting.
of interest right there.
Indeed. And that I'll tell you what's interesting about it. They've left me off of polling, so they have no idea how I would stack up with her. And that's just the games that the Republicans play when they do their polling. I'm the X factor in her world. She thinks, according to the polling, that she will beat every other candidate, but I'm the guy she doesn't know anything about or if I would beat her. And so the best way to not even face that is to just eliminate me. It's not going to happen. We're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm going to fight for this because this should not happen. And basically what's happening, Ed, if you boil it down, there's one person in the Secretary of State office that's saying 18,217 signatures mean absolutely nothing. That's what that one person is saying. If the board, the Bureau of Elections sides with them, then it's four people that think that 18,217 signatures mean absolutely nothing. The problem with that is these people are unelected bureaucrats. They are not accountable to anybody, and they can do whatever they want. And so that's why we're going to take it to the Supreme Court, because it's not right. They shouldn't have that kind of authority. Unelected bureaucrats making that kind of a decision, it's too much power. There's no check and balance. I mean, your show is called Your American Heritage, and our founders understood checks and balances. That's why we have three branches of government. And that fourth branch of government absolutely has no check and balance, and we are going to get rid of this whole concept. In fact, come up for air in just a minute. This whole rule of 750 signatures, it was instituted in 2023 by themselves. So it's a ludicrous rule. And Jocelyn Benson, as you probably know, had 3 rule sets in 2025. And the most egregious one was going against federal election law, which says that you have to retain the election records for 23 months. She ordered people, the county clerks, to destroy them after 9 days after the election was certified. 9 days, not 23 months. So this is the kind of corruption we're dealing with.
Yeah, and actually, more famously, not famously enough, actually, Stephanie Scott and Stephanie Lambert just won in Hillsdale County. And I was talking to my friend Dave Coleman about it, and it seems that they were actually every other elections official that did, as Benson said, violated the law, because these two actually, well, Lambert was her lawyer, but Stephanie Scott is like Tina Peters in Colorado.
Colorado, yep.
Thank God, is at least going to have her sentence commuted so she can leave jail. It's not a pardon or clemency, but she can at least be free, which was ridiculous that she'd be in prison like that. And Benson was trying to do the same thing to Stephanie Scott here for actually fulfilling her legal role as an elections official, retaining the records. Obviously, Benson has no regard for election integrity. Our friend Pat Colbeck's proved that a number of times when I think it's the Justice Department came in and said, we'd like to see the records. She says, no, you can't. Like, wait a minute, that's our job. No, you can't. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what she said. And that's why the corruption is really deep in Lansing. And I wouldn't be surprised that Jocelyn was behind this.
Well, folks, Derek, what's the phone number? We're going to take some calls. Depending on how this goes, I may hold you over to the second half hour if you're available.
I could do that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead,
Phone
Derek.
number
Sorry.
is 734-822-1600.
We're talking to gubernatorial candidate for the Republican nomination in August primary, which I believe is August 4th, and it's Ralph Rebant. And if you have any questions for Ralph, feel free to ask. I'm going to be asking a few questions, but I may miss a couple, and I just want to give him an opportunity to make himself known to our listeners. And we've got a few of them, it seems. So you've described yourself as a pastor, an entrepreneur, and a former union member. How have those experiences shaped your political philosophy?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every life is a story. Some just end too soon. Ryan's life unfolds through words on paper, dreams of youth, love discovered, and the challenges of growing up. He found purpose in love, joy in family, and meaning in every small moment. But even the strongest hearts can break, and sometimes life takes unexpected turns. Through laughter and loss, Ryan leaves behind something greater than memories, a lasting legacy. A short story, A Lasting Legacy, by Joseph M. Leonard. A moving reflection on life, love, and the stories we leave behind. Available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and hardcover editions. By Joseph M. Leonard.
Very, very deeply. If we talk about entrepreneur, I understand what it's like to start businesses. I've owned small businesses, construction related stuff, carpentry, masonry, concrete. I've been, as you said, a part of some unions, 3 unions actually, and it was a good experience to say, wow, I'm making some good money. I mean, back in 1977, when I was working at Fermi 2 nuclear power plant, I was making $10 an hour, and overtime was $20 an hour. Back when I was in Pennsylvania, I'd made that during the summer, and I'd go back to my job in Pennsylvania. I was making, I think it was $3.27 an hour. So it was a big boost to help us pay for our education, because nobody else paid for it. I mean, the government didn't pay for it. Biden wasn't around then, and that's a joke, by the way. He was around, but just eliminating people's college debts, that wasn't even my thought. I mean, in fact, there was what was called BEOG, Basic Education Opportunity Grant. That was available to me because of our income, but I didn't take it. I said the government should not be paying for my education. I have to pay for my own education. So we never took that. But yeah, all those things have worked. And being a pastor, most importantly, I mentioned in Ottawa County, which I don't know if you tracked that, Ed. 2 Fridays ago, I think it was, I was in a debate in Ottawa County and actually came in first. And I had 57% of the vote and came in first. I think Perry was at, I want to say, I don't know. But anyway, you add the other 3 up and they didn't even come close to 57. So my point is, one of the answers I said, they asked if we were Christians, and I said, I'm a born-again, Bible-believing evangelical who has a biblical worldview and understands God's solutions to the problems we're facing here in Michigan. Everybody clapped, and it was crazy. But the reality is, how does that shape decisions and things that I would decide? I'll give you a couple examples. I was asked about a new casino. So they gave a hypothetical. Let's say that there's a casino opening up in Western Michigan. Would you do that? And it was kind of a forum, so all the other candidates had the opportunity to answer. And this was in 2022. One guy said, well, if it fits in the zoning, yes. Muskegon needs work, sure, we'll give them that. And it came to me and I said, absolutely not. I would not sign to open up another casino. I said, as a police chaplain for 35 years, I know for a fact that people commit suicide every day in Michigan because they've gambled their money away. We have way too many ways to gamble money away. And so I said, absolutely not. And I said, I know a situation in Farmington Hills that there was a man who went down to Detroit, gambled his estate away, came home, shot and killed his wife, shot and killed his kids, and then shot and killed himself. That happened in Farmington Hills. And when you see that, it affects you. There's no way. I mean, why would I want to? Anyway, so then I said, and then finally, the Bible says that there are 3 ways to get money. One is a gift, another one is to earn it, and another one is to inherit it. And I said, gambling doesn't fall into any of those categories. So I would absolutely say no to that. And again, the whole room erupted because it's like, okay, so here's somebody who understands God's word and how it affects life, and this is how he would apply it. So that's what I'm doing. I give you another quick example in terms of the prison ministries. the prison situation. Right now, 50% of the people who are released from prison are back in within 6 months. That's the national average. And it's a failing system. The state system is a failing system. And so what I have suggested in terms of my prison reform is that I would use faith-based prison ministries, Alpha Prison Ministries out of Grand Rapids, the Reach the Forgotten Man, Prison Fellowship, Chuck Colson. These are all groups that understand that in order to rehab somebody, it's not you just lock them up for 10 years, but it's a heart change. And when those people come out of those Christian faith-based programs, Ed, 80% never come back, never go back to prison, 80%. So we keep funding failing systems. And that's why I'm running, because career politicians, businessmen and women, and attorneys who've all sat in that governor's seat have not fixed Michigan. We just have higher budgets, worse roads, worse education, more mental health issues, and no one's fixed it. So bringing God's principles back to culture will definitely change Michigan and its future for the good.
You mentioned, yes, amen. You mentioned prisons, and you've lived in Pennsylvania. If I recall, that's where penitentiaries were first established by the Quakers in order to actually bring prisoners to a place of penitentiary. And so actually there was a religious aspect to those that kind of got lost with secularism, but there was an effort to restore the prisoners, pretty much so like Chuck Colson and his group came about doing. Of course, he gained the impetus for doing that after having spent time in prison himself. So
right.
We have a call from Joe from Wyandotte, Joe Leonard. We'll see what Joe has to say or ask. Joe?
Yeah, I always like the theory of the outsider, but unfortunately in Michigan, the one dumb nerdinator kind of ruined that, whole point in philosophy. But I wanted to ask, are you still using the lighthouse because of the symbolism of it? And if not, why not?
Yes, I am still using it in speeches, but we chose not to go with that theme this time. In other words, it's still an overarching umbrella concept in what we're doing. But if you look on the billboards, it says Michigan's Turning Point. And the reason why we went with that is because we did legal research. We can use that phrase, even though Charlie Kirk's organization was called Turning Point. But we want Christianity and Christ to be the turning point in Michigan. And just more convinced that what people need is truth. They have a lot of opinions out there. They have a lot of expert opinions, but we're not hearing truth. In fact, someone made a comment that was so profound. The Gen Zers who are pursuing truth hear a lot of information, but they need to be able to sort out truth, and they need to be able to sort out what wisdom is, because there's a lot of information, but they have neither truth nor wisdom. And so that's
you're absolutely right. It's like the old IT statement. I'm a former IT guy, and the issue, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You can be flooded with information, but if 90% of it is bad, how are you supposed to reach a good conclusion?
Right. That's good, Joe. And the other thing, Joe, I was on this is an interesting thing. In Lapeer County, the youth committee for Lapeer Republicans had a governor debate. I was the only candidate to show up. Other people said they were going to come, then they backed out at the last minute. No one showed up. I mean, the Democrats and Dugan, they were all invited, but I was the only one that showed up. So it was basically a question and answer from the audience. There was a moderator there, and the moderator asked me, he said, Ralph, how are you going to bring Democrats and Republicans and Muslims and all these people together as a governor? You're a pastor, you're a Christian. And I thought for a minute, and I just said, truth. People resonate with truth, and truth always rises to the top. Truth always wins, and that's all I have to do is convince people of the truth. And that's where I'm coming from, Joe, and I appreciate that. The lighthouse imagery is still powerful. I appreciate that question.
Thanks, Joe. I mentioned it in an interview with somebody last weekend. I think it was one of the most famous questions is, what is truth? You don't get your truth. I don't get my truth. There is the truth. And
exactly.
the question was asked of the guy who was and is the truth. So it's a very profound question. Well, welcome back to Your American Heritage. And joining us this afternoon is Ralph Rebant, and he's on the ballot, the primary ballot so far, for the Republican nomination for governor of the state of Michigan. I think he's going to make it. There's a good chance he could be our next governor. I look over the ballot of the remaining 5, and I actually prefer Ralph above the others. Perry Johnson, I think, is a Johnny-come-lately, and I think it's just, I don't know. I'm not knocking him, but it just doesn't appeal to me. I don't know who Eric Nesbitt is, and I'm not kindly oriented towards John James. So I thought we'd have Ralph on to talk about his candidacy and find out more about him. And you're invited to listen in. So, Ralph, you ran in 2022. We alluded to that earlier. And how did that inform your campaign this time?
It really informed us. I tell people that in 2022 it was boot camp, but now we know we're in war. We were fighting against the Republican establishment at the time when Ron Weiser was the chair. He had made a comment in front of the entire state committee, Republican state committee, that I don't want Ralph to become governor because I'm afraid he'll listen to God more than he'll listen to us. So that was a real problem. And so they left me off of emails to governor candidates. They did not invite me to right-to-life interviews when they were considering candidates. They didn't invite me to meet with the big dollar donors. I wasn't at that event. A week after it was announced that I would be on the primary ballot, the Republican Party sent out a mailer. If the election were today, who would you vote for? Now, mind you, my name is on there with all the other candidates, but they left my name off of that. So they played games that first time. And when we saw it coming up this time, we called it out. It happened in Midland first. And we're just not letting them get by with it this time.
Now we have
to fight Jocelyn.
Yeah, exactly. Like we spoke about in the first half hour. And the whole thing about listening to God, as you were talking to me about being informed, what informs you earlier, it struck me as those are all qualities that our founders had. And people talk about Jefferson was a deist. No, he wasn't. And that Franklin was a wastrel. There's a word, look it up, W-S-T-R-E-L. And actually, towards the end, he was very, very committed religiously. These people were informed by biblical principles, and the people they read were informed by biblical principles. So, Adams would not have made that famous statement that I have a recording of here somewhere of him saying, but I'm not going to look for it right now, this government is only fit for a moral and religious people. And by religious, he meant Christian. He wasn't thinking of any other religion than Christian at the time. We have a call, Rob from Wayne. We asked for calls. We got one. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, fellas. I want to propose something to Rebant for governor. If he would accept, if one of the other 2 candidates, which we won't mention, if they asked you to be lieutenant governor right now, would you accept that?
I would ask my team, number one, thank you for that question. I would ask my team that, and then I would basically ask all of our supporters, the grassroots people that have been behind me since 2022. I think I would, but I want to have their opinion. I want them to weigh in on it. The reason why I would potentially say yes to that is because we have a plan on our website, rebantforgovernor.com. We don't have talking points, Rob. We have actual action items. And those actual action items will totally reform government in Lansing. And if I was lieutenant governor, I would be in charge of the Senate, and I would be in charge of bills that come through. And I could make sure that the principles and policies that are godly and righteous would come into purview and get voted upon. So there's some reasons why I would do that. But as I said, I would want to ask my team that's been behind me 100%, as well as people like yourself potentially. And what do they think about it? Because I don't want them to think that I'm just abandoning, our conservative Christian grassroots principles. I would want people to know that if I go in, I'm going in just as strong and to fight for those principles as if I were governor.
I suppose it might matter who was the actual governor you'd be serving with, right?
Yes, that would matter as well. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we can see that maybe that's how some of these governors actually get somebody in their back pocket that's not who we would really want as lieutenant governor. And if we follow the Michigan State Constitution, we go to Article 5, Section 21. This has kind of been bugging me as a precinct delegate since 2009. It says at the convention, party convention, so that means both parties, to be selecting a lieutenant governor at this convention. And I'm saying, if that would have been proposed, let's go through Robert's rules, and they said, Ralph Rebant for lieutenant governor, I would have voted for that right then and there, and you'd be on the ticket with somebody, we don't know who, and maybe that would be a better way of actually being in the republic in Michigan. Follow the Constitution of the state.
Right. Well,
so go back to your team and see find it in the Constitution. Maybe this is something that's going to have to be brought out as you guys continue forward to the August primary, and maybe one of them will actually ask you that, and hopefully the team is going to say, sounds like a good idea. If you're getting the support from the grassroots out there, let's go with who we want to be on the ticket, not somebody that we don't know who's going to be selected thereafter. And then, the other thing is, if you're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, I heard someone, I think Ed name-dropped an attorney, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he works with Cardall, and I've seen some of his work with some of the plaintiffs of the state of Michigan, and he sure loves to use that word, usurpation. I think he had it like 16 times in this complaint. And, that's the same word that's in the Declaration, I think 2 times, maybe 3. And maybe that'll hammer home the trouble that we're in Michigan. Thank you, fellas, for taking the call.
Oh, no, thank you for the call. Very well informed. I appreciate it very much. And, it was Dave Kallman, and he's done a lot of great work here. And I should say, hopefully we want to elect perhaps Judge Warren to the Supreme Court, so we'll have an ear there,
he's
right?
Awesome. Yes, yes. He's awesome.
So we have another call, Mike from Ann Arbor, before we get on to some of my questions, if we ever get there. I'm happy to take the calls. This is good. Mike?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of Constitutionals, taking a brief moment to thank myarchic.com. Together we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. myarchic.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also, therefore, can be shared online. Think of myarchic like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchic.com.
Yeah, Mike and Lapeer. I'm just Mike the Carpenter. I was going to ask Ralph, a simple man wants to know explanations about the Flint water crisis in the Line 5, situation. How would you explain that to us? And why do you want to be governor?
Good call.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, Mike, thanks for calling. Why do I want to be governor? Number one, as I mentioned, nobody has fixed Michigan in my lifetime. I'm 67 years old right now, and no one has fixed Michigan. We have higher budgets, as I mentioned, worse problems, whether it's the roads, whether it's the water, whether it's infrastructure. No one has fixed it. I'm also running because I am not looking for the next election. I'm looking to save Michigan for the next generation. The people that are, number three, the people that are running right now, they're connected to the establishment. And, there are people who are running that are saying, we're going to take a blowtorch to the budget. We're going to take a blowtorch to bureaucracy. Well, they've been in politics for 15 years, for crying out loud. Why didn't you do it then? When we had the House, when Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the governor's seat, and the Attorney General, why didn't we do something about it then? It's not going to happen. There's complaints by one candidate about the higher taxes, the higher cost of energy. Well, he's voted in favor of all those. And it's like just telling people what they want to hear in order to get votes. So that's why I'm running. As for the issues that we're concerned about, the Flint water crisis should never happen in Michigan. And what I've told people is that we will go to those areas that have the most worn out infrastructure. And whether it's bridges, whether it's, water lines, whatever it is, we are going to hit that first, because that's obviously important. My job as governor is to protect the safety of the citizens, and water and bridges and all of that is part of that safety protection. So that's what I would be looking to do to solve those problems. As for Line 5, that is not a Michigan issue. That's an international issue. That agreement was made between D.C. and Canada. As much as Whitmer and Nestle want to waste your tax dollars, my tax dollars, on trying to fight that, they have no standing in it because it was an agreement internationally. So
thank you.
That's where we are on that.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that gets very, very blown out of proportion there. So, speaking of taxes and funding of government, you've proposed eliminating property taxes. I'm all about eliminating property taxes. I came on strong for AXMA tax under Carla Wagner, and then I think she kind of torpedoed the movement by starting to run for governor on that and making it her issue, which meant that, well, if you're for AXMA tax, you're actually for Carla Wagner for governor. And now she's bowed out, and I have no idea where that's going. But I personally see, and I think I've said it on air before, I think it's a constitutional issue. I don't care where the funding comes from for the schools and the fire departments and the police locally. I mean, I do care, but that's going to have to be made up, because the broader issue is, if you can confiscate my property because I haven't paid a tax, then I don't own the property. The state owns the property. And that's not what the founders had in mind when they talked about the pursuit of happiness. Would you like to respond to that?
Well stated, brother. Well stated.
Thank
You talked about the founders, and we were in Williamsburg. I'll make this really quick. Going from the visitor center into the old town of Williamsburg, and as you go over the bridge to the village, there are blocks that have statements on it. And one statement said, "Our founders did not believe in property tax." You walk a little farther. The reason why, you walk a little farther and you see a Bible verse that said they believed that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and you can't tax what God owns. So they never had property tax in the founding of our country. In fact, I think it only came around in early 1900s to pay off World War I. But here's my point.
They never go away.
That is exactly right. That is right. And that's why, we were told that the lottery would take care of the schools. It's not taking care of the schools. Just so many lies. And again, that previous question, why am I running for governor? Because I'm tired of the lies. But in terms of the property tax itself, I supported Carla Wagner as well, even before she got involved in all this. She was running around in 2022, 2023, getting petitions signed. They canned her on that. But the bottom line is, I'm in favor of removing property tax because it helps everybody. If you are on a fixed income, if you're getting Social Security and you're not paying income tax, you will not get 4747. It won't help you at all. In fact, removing income tax really helps the wealthy immensely. Removing property tax helps everybody. If you're a renter, your landlord won't have to charge you that money and roll it into your monthly rent. Your rent will get lowered. If you're trying to buy a home for the first time, it'll make it much easier. If you're a business that wants to start and you're going to buy a piece of property to build a building and start all that, you won't have to pay property tax. And of course, as you mentioned, I think it's a crime that the government takes people's homes. And I think Carla had mentioned that it was 180,000 foreclosures started last year, 180,000 here in Michigan. Now, that doesn't mean everybody lost their home. It just means that that's the threat of what's going on. There were a lot of people who lost their homes. But one of the phrases she said, you lose your spouse, you lose your house. That's the reality of it, and that's criminal. You never own your home until the taxman stops sending you a bill.
It's never gone to the Supreme. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the budget, let me just say this. If you've watched commercials, and I like Perry Johnson. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he talks about this mega audit. And what I've been saying to people, I've already done a REBA audit. The first four letters of my last name, REBA. And it stands for Ralph's Emergency Budget Audit. And I'm not waiting for day one to do this. We've already done it. We've already identified the areas that we will cut. And our budget, right now, the budget in Michigan is $80 billion. Our budget would be $69 billion. We are going to cut almost $12 billion from the budget. And the point is, we've already identified it. We know the areas where we can cut, and it's out there. And Ed, I show people I have a veto pen, and everywhere I speak, I give it away to somebody or several people. And one lady from the audience said, "Well, I hope it has a lot of ink in it." There's a lot to veto.
You're going to cut funding. You're going to cut the budget, right? And so we cut property taxes. So where does the money come from for local schools, fire services, police services?
Good question. Here's how I look at it. I'm like Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis on the news last week said Florida is a low-tax state, and therefore it's a low-budget state. When we cut the budget, we don't need that extra revenue. But here's the plan. The plan is to privatize everything that government should not be involved in. We all know Secretary of State, the Post Office, U.S. Post Office, they're all disasters, and they're owned by government. And even trying to get on to the Secretary of State office to get my petitions that they're saying I have bad signatures, it took me hours. It took me an hour to even pay the bill, to find out a tab where you click to pay the bill. But here's the point. Government should not be involved in a lot of things. They shouldn't own grave sites, graveyards. They shouldn't own golf courses. They shouldn't own splash pads. These are things that government will get out of when I'm there. So we're going to privatize everything. We're going to lower the budget as well for that local tax, or that, what we're talking about, the property tax locally helps pay for law enforcement and fire and police and schools. So we're going to remove or totally change and restructure from having 537 school superintendents, because there's so much overload on the administrative end. We'll remove that and have 83. This is a real possibility, and this is how we would do this. Most of those school superintendents are making over $100,000. Most of them, probably the average is $150,000 a year, and some of them are upward near $500,000 a year. So my point is, if we limit it to 83, one per county, it'll totally change the financial need in that local area. And then finally, we have a form that local government would have to work through, and we're not going to pull the rug out from under anybody. It'd be a year process, maybe 2-year process to work through all this. But we have to ask, what is government there for? And Ed, government is there for public safety, which means police, fire, EMS. It's there, secondly, for infrastructure. I've never seen a Republican road or a Democratic drain. Everybody uses that. Elections, if we don't have secure elections, we don't have a country anymore. Education, we have a constitutional demand for education, and we're going to restructure that, as I've already said, in terms of the superintendents. So it's a combination of things. It's not like just, okay, we're going to take this out and then say, where are we going to get the extra money? No, we're going to remove stuff so we don't need as much extra money. And if there is something locally. I guess to finish this statement, let me come back to this. I would be looking at a constitutional amendment for state revenue sharing on the educational part of it. We are already doing that in law enforcement. We're already doing that in other areas. That would make the most sense to have a state revenue sharing, because right now when Lansing sends down their administrative rules that are burdening local government, it's like a quick story. Lake Odessa received a letter, and every fire department did, and I know this because I'm a chaplain, and by the way, Ed, the Southeastern Michigan Chiefs of Police have unanimously endorsed me for my run for governor. But in Lake Odessa, they get this letter from Lansing. It says you have to change your tires on your truck every 3 or 4 years, blah, 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 this great list. And the chief came out and he said, we can't do this. This is not going to work in our community. It would double our budget, and we can't afford to do that, and we're not going to tax our people higher to make it happen. So he stood up against it. But that's the kind of stuff that if we get government, get back to local control, get Lansing out of our pockets, get Lansing out of our lives.
Okay. I've got to interrupt you because we've only got a couple minutes left. What I've heard people complain about is that if we're depending on state funds for our schools, we lose local control. And actually I want to drop that at this point because I have another question I want to ask you, okay?
Okay.
Unless you can give that 30. Can you give that 30 seconds?
Well, the bottom line is government doesn't have to follow the money. It doesn't have to follow the money. In fact, that's where the point comes with local control. House Bill 4027, 4028 from Greg Alexander that is in the House right now would return all of the responsibilities to local government, not to the state or federal government. That's what I'm looking to do.
Okay, I like that. Firearms. Where are you on firearms?
Well, obviously, I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. That happens to be something that I love. I've hunted my whole life. I remember when Obama became president, I went out and bought an AR-15.
Yep, and an AK. I bought an AK.
There you go. And, I'm for constitutional carry.
Thank you.
That all of these red flag gun laws that they passed last year, we're going to repeal those.
Thank you. Those are the answers I wanted to hear. I don't know about the rest of my audience, but I'm sure they're all nodding their head vigorously at that. And in the last minute, what's this about Bitcoin? What? I mean, I'm reading that you're for a gold standard for Michigan. How does that work? Did I misread that?
Yeah, the gold standard is Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution states that says that states can use gold and silver as legal tender. A buddy of mine in Texas named Kevin Freeman started what he calls transactional gold. Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Georgia's talking about it. Those three that I just mentioned, and I think there might be another 2 states that have already passed it. Basically what it means is that the state would have a depository where people can put their gold, and you use a debit card to help or to just like a credit card for a bank account, but you're using it against your gold. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to protect generational wealth. As the dollar continues to sink, gold continues to go up. And if your money's sitting invested in your gold in a state depository, and you can access it just like you would a credit card, you could buy a pizza, you could buy a car with it, depending on how much money you have in there, your money's worth more money because it's in that. And the Constitution allows that. So that's what that's all about.
All right, we've got 40 seconds left. Thanks, Derek. So we're talking to Ralph Rebant. Ralph, tell people how they can contact you or your links.
All right, rebantforgovernor.com. It's FOR governor. Actually, we bought both of them. So if you type in a 4 or number 4 or spell it out, it's still there. Rebant, REBANDT for governor.com.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Shows of Leonard stand up for what is right. Loves God and shares his message every day and night. Believes in freedom and making his voice heard. Sharing his message over all the earth. God loves you for all you do. stand strong, and God bless you.
Life isn't a straight line. It twists, it soars, it drops without warning. But it's in those heart-pounding moments, the climbs and the falls, that we discover who we truly are. Roller Coasters, The Life Kind, a book by Joseph M. Leonard, available now on Amazon.
Sunday thoughts, coffee steaming, quiet streets, headlines heavy, people breaking when no one sees. So I lift their names up, every burden I can't fix, let it rise like incense, every hurt into your hands. I'm sending thoughts and prayers to heaven over every broken heart, every family, every soldier, every shadow and they scar. When this world crowns its pretenders, I remember what they preach. Our fathers wrote it down forever. No kings, but King Jesus over me. Jesus is King. Jesus is King. Jesus is King.
Old church steeple, cross still reaching past the sky. Ancient promise, still the answer to our cries. From the fields at Valley Forge to the pew I'm kneeling in, same confession on our lips, same hope that never ends. I'm sending thoughts and prayers to heaven over every broken heart, every neighbor, every stranger, every home that's torn apart. When this world crowns its pretenders, I remember what they preach. Our fathers wrote it down forever. No king, King Jesus over me. Jesus is King. Jesus is King. Jesus, oh, you reign. Oh, you reign. Our USA foundations, our Judeo-Christian beliefs, and our republic decree. No king, but King Jesus over me.
It ain't all sweet songs by the fire, warm hands, soft words, pretty choirs. If I cut out the thorns from the story, I'd be dressing up a grave as glory. This is tough love gospel, not just campfire shine. If I sand down the edges, I turn truth into a lie. Reality or delusion, I can't serve both sides. I'm not here just for the choir, I'm here where the hurt hearts hide. Yeah. Some pages bleed red in the margins, hard lines, hard calls, hard bargains. If I skip over storms for your comfort, then your house gets washed in the flood water. This is tough love gospel, not just campfire shine. If I sand down the edges, I turn truth into a lie. Reality or delusion, I can't serve both sides. I'm not here just for the choir, I'm here where the hurt hearts hide. Oh, do you want a dream or do you want a mirror? Do you want a joke or do you want it? the long run. You can't sell sweet dreams while the house burns behind. If it never cuts deep, it was sugar all along. If you skip the hard pages, you just rewrote the song. This is tough love gospel, not rainbows on a wire. If you hide the hard words, you're just fanning the fire. I won't preach delusion just to make it sound lighter. If I only soothe the choir, I'm a singer, not a fighter. You can hum all the feel-good lines while your neighbor breaks inside. Quote hope like a slogan and look away from the crime. But a bandage on a bullet wound is a pretty little lie if the truth never offends us. Did we ever even try? This is tough love gospel, not rainbows on a wire. If you hide the hard word, you're just fanning the fire. I won't preach delusion just to make it sound lighter. If I only soothe the choir, I'm a singer, not a fighter. I'd rather lose that crowd than sell them painted grace. I'd rather stand alone and smile and dodge the weight. Don't ask for easy comfort, then curse the honest cost. Love that never warns you will leave you more than lost. This is tough love gospel, not rainbows on a wire. If you hide the hard words, you're just fanning the fire. I won't preach delusion just to make it sound lighter. If I only soothe the choir, I'm a singer, not a fighter. Oh, if I dress up the danger, I'm a liar, not a writer. Tough love. The Bible isn't just rainbows and lollipops, singing Kumbaya around the campfire. You cannot ignore the harsh reality drops. To peddle such makes you a liar. Reality versus delusion, speaking not just to the choir. This, that, and in all things transpires.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Thank you for having tuned into another Constitutionalist Podcast show. I really appreciate that you stopped by. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We need you to help spread the Constitutionalist movement. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. Love you all.
Stand up for what is right. Loves God and shares his message every day and night. Believes in freedom and making his voice heard. Shared his message over all the earth. God loves you, Joseph, for all you do. Stand strong and God bless you.